Welcome everyone to another episode of Inspires A. My name is Narcis Mboyu and hope you are having a wonderful evening. And welcome to another episode of .NET Friday, where we talk about everything .NET, Azure, and coding basically. For today's episode, I'm joined by Nsekelelo. Welcome, Nsekelelo.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and you, Nsekelelo. Mhm.
Fine, thank you.
So so what's your expectation for today's episode?
To teach like the basics of coding, like the basic structure of coding, and to help someone else understand how to code in C Sharp using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. And what other
Awesome.
resources you can use to learn how to code besides the normal, going to school and learning how to code.
Yes, that's true. I'm really looking forward to it. You just like basically explain what we're going to be doing for today's session. So, as you've explained what we'll be doing about for today's session, I'm just going to touch on a quick recap on what we did last time. So, in the previous episode of the Net Friday, we spoke about programming 101, whereby we highlighted what is programming, what is it all about, why do we use it, how does it work, and what makes it work basically. We talked about different types of programming languages: C Sharp, Java, C++, F Sharp, etc. We talked about the environments whereby you can make these programming languages work: Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, to name a few. We also talked about the types of programs that you can make with these languages: console application, desktop application, web application, and mobile application. So, and even there's even IoT applications. So there's a lot of applications that we can make for using these programming languages. So as Inseglelo said, that today we'll be focusing on more of the basics of coding, basically basics of C Sharp, if I can put it that way, because C Sharp is the language that we have chosen to get started with. And as we've mentioned about the different types of platform: console, desktop, mobile, web, IoT, we're gonna explore all of them and just showcase how to get started in each of those different platforms to design the application that you want to use. So yeah, I'm really excited for today's session. So to kick us off, right? Nsekelelo, do you mind telling us about the terminal? Because as we are doing the episode last week, you are using something called the terminal, and I was like confused. What is the terminal? I'm sure the audience as well was confused about what is a terminal. Can you care to explain that for us, please?
Okay. So the terminal is where you can see the background work of your code and how it's running. So the internal terminal, which is at the bottom of the screen, it shows you like how your code is actually loading, like how like how you install or you download something. It's showing you the process of what is going on behind the scenes of your code before you see the final product of your code. So, and then the external terminal is used to show you the product of your code, like what's the outcome of your code. Like if you print hello world, and your internal terminal will tell you the process of this line is running, this line is running, I'm reading this and this. And then your external terminal just shows you hello world. I think,
I see.
Nasif, you have
Uh,
another definition of it.
yes, I do. But you practically explained it, so I'm not gonna say much. I'm just gonna add on to what you just said by giving a brief history lesson, basically. So, back in the day when people started using computers, not everyone was able to use a computer, if I can put it that way. You had to know certain commands in order for you to use a computer. And what do I mean by that? So, basically, in today's world, right? We have something called GUI, graphical user interface, and another one that we call command line interface, basically. So graphical user interface is what we see and use on a daily basis. It's an interface that allows us to interact with the application or allows us to interact with the program that we're working with. So the graphical user interface is just a graphical representation of what we can do within the system. So like over here, if I want to open a folder, if I want to open an application, this is the graphical interface of what I'm seeing. Behind this graphical interface, there's actually commands that goes behind the scenes that executes these actions basically. So if I press here, a certain command was opened basically, right? To make me open this folder. So this is what we see. So now with the command line interface, right? It looks like this, right? So now you can see here is my directory, C users Nambuyu. So if I go back to my folder, on top here, this is my directory. This is what we see, we call the directory, where you see where you are in your folder, basically. So let's go back to that specific place, location, right? C users Nambuyu. So there I am, right, in Nambuyu. So let's just fix this. So as you can see, I mean, this is the graphical representation of me being in Nambuyu. I want to get to my desktop, right? So if I press, there's my desktop here, as you can see, my desktop. So I press my desktop and I'm on my desktop. Now, how do we go about getting to this same place using command line? So this is what people back in the day had to do. So they're on C users, right? And you want to go to the desktop. So now in order for us to do that, we first have to check what's inside this folder. How do we check it? We just say dir. dir stands for directory. So I press enter and it's going to tell me a list of all the files that I have within the application. So this is what I am seeing from a command line interface. But from a graphical user interface, this is what I will see, right? This is what I'll see from a graphical user interface. As you can see, graphical, and this is a command line. So I want to go to the desktop. So in my desktop, I can see there's a folder called desktop. There's it over here. Since the folder exists, I can simply change the location. How do I change the location? I just say cd, right? Cd stands for change directory. Cd stands for change directory, and I type the location where I want to go, desktop, and there you go. It changed to my desktop. So now, if I want to see all the files within my desktop, I just say dir directory, and it lists all the files within my desktop. So there you go, my desktop via command line and my desktop via graphical user interface. So you're probably wondering why exactly I'm showing you this. The reason why I'm showing you this is because, as Sekelelo just mentioned, it's a more easier way of interacting with your application or when you're making application. By doing it using the command line, you are actually speeding up the process. You are actually making things faster so that you're actually loading your application to run faster so that you can actually see your results and see how it's exactly working instead of letting it build using the graphical user interface, etc. If I can put it that way. So yeah, Nteglelo, I'm sure you might have some questions or might have something to show us with regards to the terminal via your presentation of what we'll be doing today.
Yes, I will be showing something that involves the terminal today, but I have no questions right now.
Okay, so I'm sure now we can move on to the basics of C Sharp. Now that we understand why that we're using the terminal and how exactly does it work, right? So as Integlelo is sharing her screen for her demonstration of the basics of C Sharp, I would just like to touch on that the internet is our friend and it has a lot of resources that we can use to actually make programs, right? As last week we touched on SolarLearn, we touched on Brackeys, we touched on the Microsoft website. There's a lot of places for us to actually use and salvage in order for us to learn programming. So in this, as the episode continues, we'll show you how to take those concepts there on the website, on the various sources, and how to actually apply it in your learning so that you can actually become better programmers. So with that being said, over to you, Nsekelelo.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to be opening Visual Studio Code. Can everyone see my screen? Is it clear? Is it good? Any loading sites, anything, or is it 100% A-OK?
A-OK.
Okay, so today we're going to be opening a new folder, or at least creating a new folder using the terminal. So let's go to terminal, new terminal, and so we're gonna go CD OneDrive. So the reason I say CD OneDrive is because all my folders are automatically
Nsekelelo,
saved. Partner?
sorry to disturb you. It looks like your screen is frozen. We can't see the terminal.
Okay. Let me stop sharing and then share again.
Try sharing your whole screen this time.
Okay. Okay, do you see Visual Studio Code? Okay.
Yes. Can you show us how you went to the terminal, because I was lost on that part?
Okay, so you go to terminal, then you go new terminal, and then it shows user, so it would be your computer's name. My computer doesn't recognize me, just says I'm a user, which I am. So you're gonna type CD OneDrive. CD OneDrive is only for those that are using, OneDrive, because my OneDrive automatically saves everything. So that's an extra step. So then you press enter and it shows users, user, OneDrive. So next step is CD desktop, which is where my folder is going to go. And you press enter again. And then you go MKDIR, and the name of your project would be, for me, it's programs. Or let me make it easy and say easy coding. And then you press enter. So now it has loaded and created a new folder. So let's search for this folder. Open folder, desktop, easy coding, select folder, and there you are. Here is your folder. Now you need to go back to the terminal, because now you need to create your file that you're going to be coding in. So you're going to go .NET new console, and then you're going to press enter, and there you go. There's your program loading, your file opening for your program. So you're going to press it here, and here is your console write line, hello world. So here there's a required assets to build and debug are missing from easy code. Add them, say yes, so you can get your VS Code, your launch, and your tasks. So I don't like having my code run here. I like it running here, but I like my outcome of the code running on the external terminal. So go to launch, and then go here where it says console, internal console, type external terminal. There we go. Oh, sorry about that. Press OK, then X, then save. It will automatically save the changes that would have been happening in your console. So today my program is going to be a console write line, but not a hello world, because we already covered that. So we'll go to the front and we'll comment it out. So the 2 slashes at the back are commenting out of code. So I have already done my project, so I can paste it. And let me change my namespace because it's called easy underscore coding. So the namespace is basically it depends on the project name. So for Visual Studio, I know that you wouldn't need to type a namespace, it would already be there. Using systems basically helps you run your code so that you don't need to write system.console.write line and all that stuff. So here we go. Here is the code. Let me close that. So here is the entire code as it is. So
Can you try
console
zooming
dot
in, please?
ah
Can you please try zooming in
okay.
to see so we can see your code?
Okay, give me a second.
So to zoom in Visual Studio Code, if I'm not mistaken, is you hold Control and plus plus button. Yes, it's zooming in.
You see my
That's
code?
fine. Yes,
Okay.
that's clear.
So I commented. So comments usually help you to remember what you are doing in your code and what's going on, so that if someone else is viewing your code, they have a clear understanding of what you were trying to do. So I commented at the bottom that notes actual namespace depends on the project name. So here we have static void main string. This is where the body of your code is. So this is like your heading, and this is the body of your entire code. So I will change the appearance. So the console itself doesn't really usually have a name except for console or terminal. So then I changed it to console.skynet. You must always remember your semicolons, because without the semicolons, there's going to be a red line and you won't be able to run your code. For changing of foreground color, you go for your text color. Actually, this is your text color. You go console.foreground color equals console.green. So this changes to green. You can change it to any other color. My favorite color is green, so I choose green. You can choose dark red, and it will change it automatically to red. Console.window height is equal to 40. This ensures your window's height stays at a certain height. You could make it 20. It will change automatically to 20. Let me show you by running the code. You go run. Here's the terminal loading your code. See, this is the 20 height, the hello world. And here's the title, the console.title there. And there's your console.foreground. The color is equal to color.dark red. There's your color, change of color. So let me close there. And let me make it 40 again, and we'll see how it changes in terms of height. Don't worry about any orange or yellow lines. That means your code is still fine. You only worry when it's red lines. So the normal structure or way of writing code in C# is to go console.writeLine, open brackets, your variable or whatever you want to say with your quotation marks and stuff, and then your semicolon. So to read the line and to read what the person is writing, you write console.readline. As I commented below, it says this Okay, this works to ensure that the answer of the user is read. Console.read key, or you could use console dot read line. This has its automatic own IntelliSect that tells you what you can code. So you just choose read line, which also does the same job as read key. It keeps the terminal open because without it, this is what happens. Let it load. Oh, okay. Usually it opens and closes, I guess, because there was so many read lines everywhere. It didn't really need this one. Anyway, so here is my code. Narcis, do you still understand, or was I going too fast?
No, I'm enjoying it. So I'm just wondering what inspired this program.
Okay, so this program is an AI conversation between the user and the AI. So I'll be answering all the AI's questions. Or Narcis, do you want to answer the AI's questions?
No problem. I would like to answer if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem. So there's ChatGPT that recently was released, and there seems to be a whole lot of AI stuff coming out. So I was like very interested in that type of thing. And then all of a sudden, whilst I was coding with Brackeys, also this idea came to mind that let me finish the Brackeys idea of what would you do? What would your conversation between a future AI be who wants to destroy the world? So let me run the program and you see what this AI is like. So run, start debugging. Okay, so hello world. So let's just type hello. Okay, so the AI says, hello, my name is RX-9000. I am an AI sent from the future to destroy mankind. What is your favorite color? Narcis?
My favorite color is red.
Okay, red. Cool. Mine is destruction. Oh, that's sad. Okay, that's weird. What's your favorite sport?
My favorite sport is soccer or football, as Americans say.
Soccer. Well, mine is Call of Duty. Man, this AI doesn't seem to be playing games, huh? That's really rough. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's a cool game. And it writes, anyway, I'm done talking to you humans. I need to get back to my mission. What a short-tempered AI this was. Had a
Yes.
very short conversation. And what would you like to say to it? Would you like to say bye?
See you again.
Okay. And it asks, wait, what is the fastest way to destroy you humans? Any ideas?
Poison, anime.
Then never mind, I'll figure it out myself. Then why did it ask? Well, that was a waste. Well, let's just say
He has a
bye.
sense of humor.
Let's just say bye to our AI. And you see how readline works. It reads the last thing and we're done.
It was a really fascinating project, I won't lie, and had a full inspiration. Like, it was just out of creativity that you actually made it to work. So that's the thing that I want to highlight about programming is that you can have a concept and an idea in your mind, and you can actually make it into a reality using coding, using programming, and that's what the power of programming had. It had That's what the power of programming has, if I can put it that way. So thank you very much, Sekelelo. So basically, to add on to what you've just showed us, I'll be showing you I'll be showing us or you guys how to make a simple calculator using C Sharp, but not in Visual Studio Code. I prefer doing it in Visual Studio 2022. So, as you can see on my screen, I have something called SolarLearn. So when I started learning C Sharp, I was using this as my reference, as my go-to textbook or Bible, if I can put it that way, for me to learn C Sharp. So as you can see, it has the basics of what is C Sharp, what is a variable, making your first C Sharp program, printing text, as in Seglelo just showed us how to print a text, how to get user input, as in Seglelo just showed us, what is a variable, what are constants, what are arithmetic operators, so, and what is incrementing and decrementing. So all of these is what I learned through SolarLearn. Insegalolo showed us about brachis on YouTube. So if you like don't want to go through reading by yourself, you can actually watch the videos on brachis, right? And then if you still want to know more in depth about C Sharp, you can go to Microsoft Docs, um, Microsoft Docs, C Sharp, and you get to learn more about what is C Sharp. As you can see, as the first results that came through, that's just to show you the sources. You see, get started. There are beginning videos, there are tutorials, there are concepts for you to understand. So there's so many ways for us to get started. And I'm just going to be building off SolarLearn. So if you want, like for future references, I'm not going to go through it. I will leave you go through it. But if you have any questions, you might just leave it into the chat for us, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Visual Studio. As you can see, I have Visual Studio there. I click on it, and there you go. It just loaded right now. My Visual Studio just loaded, and then we're gonna choose to create a new project. So create new project. So that we're creating a console application. As you remember, there's different types of application: console, desktop, mobile, web application, even IoT. Even for smart TVs, you can make an application for it, basically. So what are we doing? We are doing C Sharp. So I have C Sharp selected already. I want making a Windows application. You see there's Android, Azure, iOS, Linux, Mac OS, TV OS, Windows, and Xbox. You can even make Xbox games using Visual Studio 2022, even with Visual Studio Code. But I prefer Visual Studio 2022. So I'm making one for Windows, and we're making a console application. So console is already selected. So I'm just gonna choose a simple console app. As you can see, there's 3 console installed over here. I'll choose console application and next, right? Name it whatever I want. Simple calculator. So not exactly whatever I want, but basically on what you're working on. Calculator. Right? Simple calculator, and leave it create. So while it's loading, I'm just gonna touch on a few major points while we wait for it to load, right? So what is a variable, right? A variable, from what you can see here, a variable is basically a placeholder of information. It's somewhere where we can store our information so that we can use it throughout our program. So when Integralo was asking for the AI was asking us questions, and we are giving it a response. The response that we're giving it was being stored in something called a variable. And that's what basically a variable is. It stores data, or it stores memory, or it stores information so that you can use it throughout the program, right? So that's the first thing about variables. So now, there are different types of variables, right? There are integer variables. There's different types of variables. There's integer variable, there's integer, there's string, there's double, there's float, there's char, there's boolean, and you're probably wondering what are all these variables and what do they do. So integer is those numbers, basically. So here's a more better description of the types of variable. There's integer, there's float, there's double, there's char, there's boolean, and there's the string. So whenever we're entering something within our application, we're entering it as a string. Basically, it's a sequence of characters put together. A Boolean takes in two values. It's either true or it's false. Char stands for character. It only takes a character of a value. Float is a floating decimal point. So basically numbers with a comma, right? And then integer is basically your whole number. So from 0 to 1 million, if I can put it like that. So that is an example of a integer. Here's more example. So 42 is an example of an integer. 3,14, which for pi is a double. Char is the letter Z. Boolean is true, and first name, and the string is the name of a person, whatever we enter. So you're probably wondering for yourself, what is an X, what is pi, what is Y, is online your first name. So basically, these are variable names. So as I said, we are storing it somewhere. We can't just store it anywhere. We have to be more specific about the way we do things, right? So we have to give it a name, our storage space a name. So over here, the storage space for us to store the integer variable is X. It's called X. You can name it whatever you want as long as it's following the C# rule. So there's X, there's pi, there's Y, there's is online, and there's first name, basically. So that's just a bit of a brief before we actually get started with our application. So I'm just going to quickly zoom in. So for us to get started with our application, I'm just going to remove this, right? Because we don't really need it. Or you can just choose to comment it as Ntegelelo just did. So what I'm going to do is start with the comments. So we're making a calculator. So what are the things that you're going to need? There's a concept called IPO, right? I don't know why it's starting to. There's IPO, right? It stands for input, process, output. So when you are making your program, you have to put this in mind. What is your input? What you are expecting, right? Then after expecting it, what are you going to process with it, right? And after processing, what are you going to output? So when we're making our calculators, what am I expecting as an input? So in Ntegelelo, what type of calculator must you make? Must you make one for division, multiplication, addition, subtraction? Which one must we make?
Multiplication.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So we're going to be making a multiplication calculator. So what are the things that we're going to need to make a multiplication calculator? We're going to need two numbers, A number, B number, and then C number will give us the answer, right? So we have to first think about it logically on how we're going to structure our program. So we're going to need two numbers, and we're going to produce one number from these two. That's how multiplication works. So this is my input. I'm going to put it as an input. So how do you define your variables? So if you're going to use your numbers within a calculation throughout your program, you're going to put it as an integer or a double or a float. So out of those three. So you're going to either put it as an int, right? Double or float. So when you want to make calculation, you can either put it in one of these three like this, right? One of these three. So now how do you know which one to use? So if you are dealing with just simple numbers, addition and subtraction, then you're going to use int, right? If you are dealing with complicated numbers that involve decimals, you're going to use double, right? And sometimes, most of the time, when we are dealing with money and like with proper rounding values, then we use float, if I can put it like that. So for this one, what we're going to use double as our variable type. So I'm going to put double, right? And I'm going to give it a name. So I said A, so A, and then so if you really want to be fancy when coding, you can put double A, double B, double C, right? And then your full stop. So this is my full stop. So these are the syntax, the rules of C#. The rules of C# we refer to it as syntax. So there's A, B, and C. But for a beginner, this sounds very confusing. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to put it line by line. So I'm going to put double A, full stop, double B, right? And you can see that there was the AI was kicking in, as Ntegelelo said. So the AI is predicting what I want to do within my code. So I created double B, and then double C. You see, it's predicting what I'm going to do. So, and it knows I'm going to need double C, and it predicts for me. I just enter it and it types. So this is my input, right? So now after getting your variables that you're going to need for inputting, right? Now we're going to make use of it. So we're going to now need the user input. How do you get the user input? So if we have to ask the user to enter something, that's how you get the user input, right? So we're simply going to say console, right? Console. So console is basically in within the what the namespaces. And Sekeleto spoke about namespaces. So you're probably wondering what is a namespace. Let me just touch about it quickly. So if on top here I go using right system, that is a namespace, right? So namespaces is basically a bunch of files, a bunch of tools within C# that allows us to make our coding more extensive, allows us to do more coding. So if you want to do certain amount of coding or you want to add new features, you just have to make sure that your namespace is able to contain it. In the latest version of .NET, they've removed the namespaces so that we can have a cleaner code. That's why it's not there, but that's why it's not visible over there, but it's actually there. That's why I'm able to write this code over here. So if moving on, so if we want to make ask for user input, so let's just do it properly. Asking user input. So I'm putting comments so I know what I'm doing, right? Asking user input. So I'm gonna say console, right? Console. So my IntelliSense is kicking in. It knows what I want to write, and also the AI is kicking in and it's finishing the word for me. Console.writeLine. So now one of the rules of C# is, let me show you. So if I say console.writeLine open brackets and I say please enter a number, right? And now look and close my bracket. You see I'm getting red squiggly line. Why does it get a red squiggly line is because C# doesn't recognize this as a value. It doesn't recognize this within its language. So how do we make it recognize? So all we have to do, right, we just have to put it in between inverted commas. So I put inverted commas and I put the text back. Please enter the first number. Let's be more specific so the user can give us a number. Please enter the first number, right? And I put a full stop, which is a semicolon, right? After putting that, we're gonna say, now after asking, we need to read what the user is gonna give us. So we're gonna say console. How do we read what the user is gonna give us? We're just gonna say we're gonna assign whatever the user is giving us to a variable. So the first variable is A. So we're going to say A is equal to console, right? Console dot readline, right? As Integrelo was doing within her application. And then full stop. But hey, there's a squiggly line. Why is there a squiggly line? It's because, as I said earlier on, when you're entering something, you're entering it as a string. So as it's coming in as a string, we need to convert it to a double so that we can use it for calculation. And you're probably wondering, how do we convert it into a double for us using a calculation? Well, I'm just going to erase this again, right? So I'm going to say A is equal to convert, right? We just say going to say convert, convert. Let's try that away. Convert dot to double. Can you see that is there? So the IntelliSense is picking up. So I can convert to byte, to char, to date and time, to decimal. But the one I'm looking for is to double and then A. So you see, the A is being converted to a double. But we're not converting A, we are converting what the user is going to enter for us. So we're going to say convert to double whatever the user is going to give us. So we say console.readline, right? Console.readline, open brackets, close brackets, and then there. So that's the first way. The second way is to just say A is equal to, right? A is equal to a double, right? Double dot parse. So pass this string into and make it a double console.readline. So that's the second way of converting into a double for calculation. So it works the same way with an integer, with a float, and also with a string, basically to convert it to what you want to do. So these are the two ways. So Segelelo will just tell us which way we must do. So Segelelo, which way must we do? Which way do you prefer?
Pardon?
Which conversion method do you prefer for us to use? The first one or the second one?
I know the second one more, okay? More
Okay,
than
no
the
problem.
first one.
Okay, so we're gonna use the second one, right? So we're gonna say, please enter the second number, right? Please enter the second number, and then we're just gonna copy this, right? We're gonna copy and then make this into a comment because we do not need it within our code, right? So we say, please enter second number, full stop with a semicolon, full stop with a semicolon, or there's two full stop. Let's just zoom out a bit. Full stop with a semicolon, and then after that we're gonna say b is equal to double, right? Double dot parse console dot readline. So that's our second conversion done. So we got our two numbers. After getting the two numbers, we now need to make the calculation. How do we go about calculation? So now we're gonna move on to the process, right? The process. So now the process is simply multiplication. So we're gonna say C is equal to A multiplied by B, right? A multiplied by B. A multiplied by B. The AI is even kicking out for me. So this is my process, A multiplied by B, or I can say B multiplied by A, but that comes down to BODMAS, right? So now we want to output our answer, right? So how do we output our answer? So I'm gonna put a comment there, output, right? So that's my output. I'm simply gonna say console, right? Console dot write line, right? Console dot write line. Let's make it user friendly because everyone, we have to be nice to each other. Your answer is, right? Your answer is C. So how am I gonna write this over here? So now I'm just gonna put it like that. I'm gonna say plus over here, and I'm gonna say C. But now look, it's not it's picking up, as you can see, right? It's picking up. So what did I just do here? I just did something called string concatenation. So just because we can add do calculation on a what, on multiplication, we can also do some additions to a string. So string concatenation, let me just write it down. String concatenation is basically the joining of two strings. Is the joining of two strings. Basically, that's what string concatenation is all about. So that's done. Let's test it out. So I don't need to run it through the terminal. I just press the green button and it's all go, right? It's all go. Let's see if I have no errors. Any questions on your side, Nsekelelo?
Nope. I'm focusing.
Okay. No problem. So we're just waiting for my console to load, right? Okay. So while we're waiting for the console to load, right? So you see, if I ran it through the terminal, it would have been faster. But now it's taking a bit slower because it's processing everything that it does in the terminal. It's being done right now. So there's it is just loaded. So it's telling me to please enter the first number. What number must I put in, Sekelelo?
Let's see, 18.
18. I press enter. Please enter the second number.
20.
20. So now let's see our answer. Your answer is 360. Wow. Congratulations, we just made our first calculator. You see.
Yay!
So yeah, so I'm just gonna press enter again to exit the application. So now let's apply some of the things that Nteklelo did. As you can see over here, these are my namespaces. So to make this calculator, these are the namespaces that are needed. So with the latest version of .NET, as I'm typing in my code, the namespaces that I'm using or I need automatically get added onto my code, as you can see. So now if I want to make it a bit more fancy, I'm just gonna say console, right? Let's put it console, just to make it console, right? Console dot title, right? Is equal to calculator, right? So now we are naming our application calculator, right? Calculator, and then full stop. Let's see, right? Let's see it go. And there you go. We've just changed the name of our application. And as you can see, it's written calculator. Okay, it was written calculator at first, but I'm just gonna leave it like that. So with that being said, I'd like to end off today's episode. And yeah, so we're gonna put this code that we have on Git online so that you can have access to it and you can work with it and basically make changes to what you're doing. So basically, everything that we in Sekulelo and I have done, we got it from somewhere, right? We got it from these tools over here. I got it from SoloLearn. Sekulelo got it from Microsoft Documentation. She also got it from Brackeys. So it's out there, but now you just have to use it for what you want to do or what you're trying to do. Yeah. So, Nteklelo, before we end off, you would like to say some remarks?
Well, I can now say that I can code a calculator. So,
And now,
yeah.
and I can say that I have the first step of making my own ChatGPT, as you've mentioned.
Yeah, true. But I should work on mine because mine seems to be very, very content on destroying the world.
I see. Well, with that being said, that's just the basics of C sharp, of getting started in C sharp, right? So now, next episode, what we're going to do, we're now gonna build on this and make it a bit more complicated. How can you make it more complex, basically? And then after doing that, then we're going to move over to desktop application. How do we get started to making desktop application, and we'll build up on that. So basically, there's a lot to cover, and we're gonna just take it day by day, episode by episode, until you have access to everything that you need. Thank you again for joining us. And Nseglelo, would you like to say the goodbyes?
Well, sure. Thank you for listening to us, and I hope you learned something new. Or if you were confused about something, you finally got a better understanding or a better viewpoint of what's going on. And if you are new, I hope we didn't confuse you or scare you away from coding, because coding is very fun and nice, and it actually helps you learn something new. It's like learning a new language, like like learning from English to Zulu or from Zulu to German, anything. So yeah.
Thanks. So until next time, see you guys later. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Deuces.
Bye.